The library's lights flickered once, twice, then plunged into darkness, leaving only the howl of the storm outside and the thud of my racing heart. I gripped the edge of a wooden table, my breath shallow. As a realization hit, I was trapped. Joshua Carter, 24, perpetually single and perpetually overthinking, was stuck in the Portland State University library during the worst storm in years. The emergency lights buzzed to life, casting a faint red glow over the sprawling stacks of books. Rain battered the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the distant rumble of thunder felt like a warning. I'd come here to escape my cramped apartment, my dead-end barista job, and the gnawing loneliness that clung to me like damp clothes. But now, the library felt like a cage, its silence heavier than the storm outside. I wasn't alone. A shadow moved in the aisle ahead, and my stomach lurched. "Hello," I called, my voice cracking. No answer. Just the soft shuffle of footsteps on the carpet. I clutched my phone, its battery at 3%, useless without a signal. The shadow grew closer, and then a figure stepped into the dim light. A man, tall and breathtakingly handsome, with blonde hair swept into an undercut and eyes like a summer sky. He wore a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, and a curious half-smile that made my knees weak. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low and smooth, cutting through the storm's chaos. I nodded, though my heart was doing cartwheels. "I'm Eli," he said, stepping closer. "Looks like we're stuck here together." I swallowed hard, trying to play it cool. "Joshua." "And yeah, seems like it." My words sounded lame, but Eli's smile widened, and something in his gaze made me feel seen, really seen, for the first time in years. The library, a labyrinth of books and secrets, became our world that night. Eli and I wandered the aisles, sharing stories to drown out the storm. He was a grad student, studying environmental science, with a laugh that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. I told him about my dream of becoming a writer, how I pour my heart into stories no one read. He listened, his eyes never leaving mine, and I felt a spark I couldn't explain. Hours passed, or maybe minutes, time blurred in the dark. The emergency lights flickered again, plunging us into near-total blackness. My breath caught, and I felt Eli's hand brush mine, steadying me. "Hey," he whispered, so close I could feel the warmth of his breath. "You're not alone." And then, without warning, his lips found mine. The kiss was soft, electric, a collision of fear and desire that stole the air from my lungs. I froze, then melted into it, my hands finding his shoulders. The world, the storm, the darkness, my doubts vanished. There was only Eli, his touch grounding me in a way I'd never known. When we pulled apart, gasping, his eyes searched mine. "I'm sorry," he said, but his smile said he wasn't. I had to. I laughed, shaky and alive. "Don't be sorry." My voice was barely a whisper, but it carried everything I felt: hope, fear, and a longing I'd buried for too long. The lights flickered back on, weak but steady, and reality crashed in. Eli wasn't just a stranger in the dark. He was real, and so was the pull between us. But the library doors were still locked. The storm still raged. And I couldn't shake the feeling that this moment, this kiss, was the start of something bigger. Something that could break me or save me. Eli grabbed my hand, his grip firm. "Come on," he said, pulling me toward the back of the library. "There's a study room with a couch. We'll wait out the storm together." I followed, my heart pounding, knowing nothing would ever be the same. The study room was a small oasis of calm, its walls lined with faded posters about citation styles and research methods. Eli flopped onto the worn couch, patting the space beside him. I hesitated, my mind replaying that kiss, the way his lips had felt like a promise. I sat, leaving a careful inch between us, though every nerve in my body screamed to close the gap. "You're nervous," Eli said, not question. His blue eyes sparkled with mischief, but there was kindness there, too. "I don't bite, Joshua. Unless you ask." I laughed, the tension easing. "You're bold for a guy I just met in a blackout." He shrugged, leaning back. "Life's too short to play it safe. Besides, you kissed me back." My face burned, but I couldn't deny it. "Yeah, well, you caught me off guard." The storm roared outside, a reminder of our isolation. Eli's gaze softened. "Tell me something real," he said. "Something you don't tell anyone." I froze. My life was a patchwork of half-truths, of hiding who I was to avoid judgment. Growing up in a small Oregon town, I'd learned early to keep my feelings locked away. Being gay wasn't a sin to me, but to my family, it was close enough. I'd moved to Portland to escape their expectations, but the weight of their disapproval still clung to me. "I write stories," I said finally, my voice low. "Not just for fun. They're about me. About being gay. About wanting more than what I've been told I can have. But I'm too scared to share them." Eli didn't laugh or look away. He leaned closer, his knee brushing mine. "That's brave," he said. "Writing what scares you. Most people don't have that kind of courage." I shook my head. "It's not brave if no one sees it." "Then show me," he said simply. "When we get out of here, I want to read one." My heart skipped. No one had ever asked to see my work, let alone looked at me like I was worth knowing. I nodded, unable to speak. Eli shared his own story then. He'd grown up in Seattle, the only child of a single mom who worked 2 jobs to keep them afloat. He'd come out at 16, expecting rejection, but his mom had hugged him and said, "You're my son." That's all that matters. Now, he was in Portland, chasing a degree and a dream to fight climate change. His passion was infectious, his voice alive with purpose. As he spoke, I noticed the way his hands moved, animated and sure. I wanted to reach for them, to feel that spark again, but doubt crept in. What if this was just a moment? A fluke born of darkness and adrenaline? What if Eli walked away when the lights came back? The storm's intensity grew, wind rattling the windows. A loud crack echoed outside, and I flinched. Eli's hand found mine, steadying me. "It's just a branch," he said, but he didn't let go. His thumb traced circles on my palm, and I felt my walls crumbling. "Joshua," he said softly, "what are you so afraid of?" I swallowed, the truth spilling out before I could stop it. That this isn't real. That you'll disappear when the storm's over. His eyes darkened, not with anger, but with something deeper. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. "Not unless you want me to." He leaned in, and this time, I met him halfway. The kiss was slower, deliberate, like we were mapping each other's souls. His hand cupped my face, and I felt safe, wanted, alive. When we parted, Eli grinned. See? Real. But the moment shattered with a loud bang from the library's main doors. Voices, security guards, maybe, echoed through the stacks. My stomach dropped. The world was coming back. And with it, all my fears. Eli squeezed my hand, his expression fierce. "We're not done," he said. "This is just the beginning." The voices grew louder, flashlights cutting through the library's dimness like knives. Eli and I froze, our hands still entwined, the warmth of his touch anchoring me against the rising panic. The storm had trapped us, but these intruders, security or maintenance, I couldn't tell, felt like they were stealing something precious, something I wasn't ready to let go. "Stay here," Eli whispered, his voice steady but urgent. He stood, moving toward the study room's door, but I grabbed his wrist. "Don't," I said, my voice sharper than I meant. "What if they separate us?" His eyes softened, and he squeezed my hand. "They won't. I promise." But promises felt fragile in the face of reality crashing in. We crept out of the study room, sticking to the shadows of the towering bookshelves. The library, once a sanctuary, now felt like a maze with no clear exit. The voices were closer now, near the circulation desk. "Check the east wing," one said, gruff and tired. "Power's still out, but we need to clear the building." Eli pulled me behind a shelf, his body pressed close to mine. His breath tickled my ear as he whispered, "We need to find another way out. Or at least a better hiding spot." His calm was contagious, and I nodded, trusting him despite the chaos in my chest. We moved silently, weaving through the aisles. Eli's hand never left mine, a lifeline in the dark. My mind raced. Part of me wanted to be found, to return to the safety of normalcy. But a louder part screamed to stay with Eli, to hold on to this fleeting magic. I'd spent years hiding who I was, but with him, I felt free, like I could finally breathe. We found a secluded corner near the rare book section, a nook with a small table and 2 chairs. Eli pulled me down beside him, and we sat, knees touching, listening to the storm and the distant voices. "Tell me more about your stories," he said, his voice low, like he was trying to keep the world at bay. I hesitated, then let the words spill out. I told him about my favorite story, one I'd never shared, a tale of 2 boys in a small town, fighting to love each other despite a world that didn't understand. It was raw, personal, a mirror of my own fears and hopes. Eli listened, his eyes never leaving mine, and when I finished, he leaned forward, his forehead resting against mine. "That's beautiful," he said. "You're beautiful." My throat tightened. No one had ever called me that, not in a way that felt so real. I wanted to kiss him again, to lose myself in him, but the sound of footsteps snapped me back. They were close, too close. Eli's jaw tightened. "We need to move," he said. But before we could, a flashlight beam swept over the shelves, pinning us in place. "Hey," a voice barked. "Who's there?" My heart stopped. Eli stood, pulling me up with him, his stance protective. "Just students," he called, his voice calm but firm. We got stuck when the power went out. The guard, a burly man with a tired expression, lowered his flashlight. "You can't stay here. Building's closed." "Come with me." I wanted to protest, to cling to this moment. But Eli squeezed my hand. "It's okay," he murmured. "We'll figure this out," as we followed the guard toward the main entrance. My mind raced. The storm was easing. The rain is soft patter now, but the real storm was inside me. Eli had awakened something I couldn't ignore, a longing for connection, for courage, for a life where I didn't have to hide. But what happened when we stepped outside? Would he vanish? A dream dissolved by daylight? At the entrance, the guard fumbled with a set of keys. Eli turned to me, his eyes fierce. "Give me your number," he said. "This isn't over." I scribbled it on a scrap of paper from my pocket, my hand shaking. He took it, his fingers lingering on mine, and for a moment, I believed him. But as the guard opened the door and the cold air rushed in, doubt crept back. The world was waiting, and I wasn't sure I was ready for it, or for what Eli made me feel. The library doors swung open, and the cold, wet air hit me like a slap. Eli and I stepped into the night, the storm's remnants dripping from the eaves. The guard muttered something about staying safe and disappeared back inside, leaving us alone under the faint glow of a street lamp. I glanced at Eli, his blonde hair damp and curling at the ends, his eyes still bright despite the chaos. So I said, my voice unsteady, "What now?" He grinned, shoving his hands into his pockets. "Now, we get coffee. Or breakfast. It's probably morning by now." I checked my phone, 4:12 a.m. Battery dead. The idea of coffee with Eli felt like a lifeline, but my insecurities clawed at me. What if this was just a fleeting moment? A story that ended when the sun rose? We walked through Portland's quiet streets, the city still recovering from the storm. Eli led me to a 24-hour diner a few blocks away, its neon sign buzzing faintly. Inside, the warmth of greasy food and cheap coffee enveloped us. We slid into a booth, and for the first time, I saw Eli in full light, his sharp jawline, the faint freckles across his nose. The way his smile made my chest ache. Over pancakes and endless coffee refills, we talked. Not about the storm or the kiss, but about everything else, our favorite books, our worst fears, the dreams we were too scared to chase. Eli wanted to save the planet. I wanted to tell stories that mattered. With every word, I felt myself falling, not just for him, but for the version of myself he saw, someone brave, someone worth knowing. But doubt lingered. I've been hurt before, not by love, but by rejection, by the world's subtle and not-so-subtle ways of telling me I didn't belong. Eli seemed different, but what if I was wrong? As dawn broke, painting the diner's windows pink, Eli reached across the table, his hand covering mine. "You're overthinking again," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "I can see it in your eyes." I laughed. "Caught. Maybe. It's just this feels too good to be true." He leaned forward, his gaze intense. "It's real, Joshua. I'm real. And I want to see you again, tomorrow, next week, whenever you'll let me." My heart soared. But before I could respond, my phone buzzed to life, plugged into a wall outlet. A text from my roommate. "Sam, where are you? You okay?" I typed a quick reply, then looked at Eli. "I should get home," I said, reluctant. "But I want to see you again, too." He smiled, scribbling his number on a napkin. "Text me. And send me one of your stories." "I'm in it. I want to read them." We parted outside the diner, the morning air crisp and new. Eli hugged me, his arms strong and sure, and I felt a spark of hope. Maybe this could work. Maybe I could be brave. But when I got home, reality hit hard. Sam was waiting, his face a mix of worry and frustration. "You were out all night in a storm? What happened?" I hesitated, the truth too raw to share. "Got stuck in a library," I said, which was true enough. But as I lay in bed, Eli's kiss replayed in my mind, and I knew I couldn't go back to the person I'd been. I grabbed my laptop and opened one of my stories, the one about the boys in love, fighting for their happy ending. My fingers hovered over the keys, then typed for Eli. I sent it before I could second-guess myself, my heart pounding. His reply came an hour later. "This is incredible. You're incredible. Dinner tomorrow?" I smiled, hope blooming despite my fears. But as I drifted asleep, a nagging thought lingered. Could I trust this feeling, or was I setting myself up for heartbreak? Dinner with Eli was like stepping into a dream I didn't want to wake from. He picked a small Italian place downtown, its candlelit tables intimate and warm. I wore my best shirt, a dark green button-up that Sam swore brought out my eyes. But I still felt like an imposter next to Eli's effortless charm. He greeted me with a hug that lingered, his cologne a mix of cedar and citrus that made my head spin. "You sent me your story," he said as we sat, his eyes sparkling. I read it twice. "Joshua, it's powerful. You have to share it with the world." I blushed, picking at my pasta. "It's just a draft. I don't know if it's good enough." "It's more than good enough," he said, his voice firm. It made me feel something. That's what matters. His words lit something inside me, a spark of confidence I'd never felt. We talked for hours, the conversation flowing as easily as the wine. Eli shared stories of his mom, his research, his hope to make a difference. I told him about my family, the weight of their expectations, and how I'd left to find myself. With every word, I felt closer to him, like we were building something real. But the world has a way of intruding. Halfway through dessert, my phone buzzed, a call from my mom. I ignored it, but the voicemail she left was a gut punch. "Joshua, we need to talk. Your dad's not doing well. Come home this weekend." Guilt twisted in my chest. I hadn't been home in months, hadn't told them I was gay, hadn't faced the judgment I knew was waiting. Eli noticed my shift. "You okay?" he asked, his hand finding mine under the table. I nodded, but the lie felt heavy. "Family stuff," I said, forcing a smile. "I'll deal with it." He didn't push, but his eyes said he understood. When we left the restaurant, he pulled me into a quiet alley, his lips finding mine in a kiss that felt like a promise. "Whatever's going on," he said, "you don't have to face it alone." The next few days were a whirlwind. Eli and I texted constantly, met for coffee, stole kisses in quiet corners. But the looming trip home hung over me like a storm cloud. I hadn't come out to my parents, hadn't faced the small-town prejudice I'd fled. The thought of telling them about Eli, of admitting who I was, terrified me. On Friday, I boarded a bus to my hometown, a 3-hour ride through Oregon's rain-soaked forests. Eli sent me a text as I left. "You've got this. Call me if you need me." I clung to his words, but doubt gnawed at me. What if my family rejected me? What if Eli got tired of waiting for me to be brave? When I arrived, my mom's hug was tight, but her eyes were tired. "Your dad's sick," she said. "Heart trouble." He's asking for you. At the hospital. My dad looked smaller than I remembered, his face pale against the white sheets. Joshua, he said, his voice weak. You've been gone too long. Guilt hit me like a wave. We talked, stilted at first, about my job, my writing, anything but the truth. But as I sat by his bedside, I realized I couldn't keep hiding. Dad, I said, my voice shaking, there's something I need to tell you. His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw not judgment, but fear of losing me. I took a breath, ready to speak, but the words caught in my throat. Could I do this? Could I risk everything for the truth? The hospital room was too quiet. The beeping of my dad's heart monitor, a steady reminder of time slipping away. I gripped his hand, the words I'd rehearsed 100 times stuck in my throat. Dad, I said again, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm gay. He blinked, his face unreadable. My mom, standing by the door, froze. I braced for anger, for rejection, but instead, my dad squeezed my hand. I know, he said softly. I've known for a while. I just didn't know how to talk about it. Tears stung my eyes. You're not mad? He shook his head. I'm mad you felt you had to hide it. You're my son, Joshua. I love you. My mom crossed the room, pulling me into a hug. We both do, she said, her voice thick. We just want you to be happy. I cried then, relief and years of fear pouring out. They didn't understand everything. Not yet, but they were trying, and that was enough. I told them about Eli, about the library, about the spark that had changed me. My dad smiled, weak but genuine. Sounds like a good guy. Bring him around sometime. When I left the hospital, I called Eli, my voice shaky but light. It went okay, I said. Better than I thought. I knew you could do it, he said, and I could hear his smile through the phone. I'm proud of you. Back in Portland, Eli was waiting at the bus station, his grin brighter than the morning sun. He pulled me into a hug, then a kiss, right there in front of everyone. For the first time, I didn't care who saw. Over the next few months, Eli and I grew closer, our lives intertwining like the pages of a book. I shared more of my stories, and with his encouragement, I submitted one to a literary magazine. When it was accepted, Eli threw a small party, his pride in me brighter than any spotlight. But the real change was in me. That night in the library, trapped by a storm and a stranger's kiss, I found something I didn't know I was searching for: courage. Courage to love, to write, to be myself. Eli didn't save me. He showed me I could save myself. One evening, as we sat in the same diner where we'd shared our first breakfast, Eli took my hand. You know, he said, that power outage was the best thing that ever happened to me. I laughed, my heart full. Me too. The storm had trapped me, but Eli had set me free. And as we walked into the Portland night, hand in hand, I knew I'd never hide again. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, ours, and that was more than enough.